All right, it is time for the behind-the-scenes weather model discussion here for Thursday, November the 3rd. How's it going, everyone? William Cole here in the Storm Studio. Again, this is the bonus content that we like to do every day for our social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. This is where we look at not just our normal forecasts that we put on TV, but we take you behind the scenes. We look at the raw data. We're going to sift through that. And, of course, the big story today is really heading into tomorrow, the opportunity of severe weather around the area. So this will be a little abbreviated because the fact we're truly just going to key in on that opportunity of severe weather again as we get into tomorrow, because it does look pretty potent. Obviously, we don't say that to sensationalize it. We haven't had a lot of severe weather here in North Texas this year, so we're hoping tomorrow's not the doozy of the year, right? But it does appear as though things could be quite active. Okay, so what all does that mean, right? Let's go and dive into this. So number one, I'm just starting here with the live cam, right? Downtown look at our live look there to downtown Dallas. What's the one thing you notice here? It's all the gray cloud cover, right? This is maritime moisture. This is moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. You call it maritime moisture. So it's basically flexed up into the area. And in order to get rain and storms, what's one ingredient you need? Well, it's moisture, right? So we have ample moisture. The dew point numbers, they've dramatically come up through the day. And because of that, we just have this low gray cloud cover. It's been hanging out all day. This time of year, the sun angle comes down and it's a little bit harder to burn off that gray cloud cover, and especially on a day like today where this fetch of moisture just continues to kind of replenish itself. There's been a few peaks of sun, but again, by and large, it's a gray day. That's also how we're going to start tomorrow as well. There could even be a few very light showers around tomorrow morning, but it's right now the way it appears, it's still going to be from 2 p.m. through the evening that there will be an opportunity of active weather, meaning severe weather here in North Texas. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. But let's also take a look at this. How are we doing temperature-wise out there? So forecasted a high of 79. Well, it is currently 79, but it's also still, we're doing this right about 327. So that means we may even tap an 80, right? There's still a little give or take here where we easily could still jump up a degree or two. So will we hit it right on the nose of 79, or do we miss it by maybe 1 or 2 and we tap an 80 or even an 81? That's a little misleading. It's cloudy out there. You don't think the temperature's moved much, but on that southerly wind kind of advecting in that the warmer air just to our south, we've done a nice job of warming the temperatures. We also started the day just a little bit warmer as well. Quickly, just here in North Texas, looking around, yeah, a lot of mid to upper 70s. We are tapping a few 80s out to the west, and also down in Corsicana, down in Navarro County, tapping an 83 now too. Quick check of the winds, and we'll really get down to business here. And winds, again, you can see that southeasterly component, right? That's a backing wind. It's backed to our moisture source. Where's our moisture source here in North Texas? It is the Gulf of Mexico. So again, we're moving in, right? We're fetching in that maritime moisture into the area. Okay, let's go ahead and let's go and dive into the raw data. Right now, we're truly getting into it with the raw data here. And let's go and start with the visible satellite. And it's giving us a really good look at one of two things, right? One of two things. First of all, you can see all the low gray cloud cover, right? It's all the way down into parts of hill country, central Texas. Again, we're talking about San Antonio, Austin, and again, you can literally see it. If you look carefully at the little white bubbles there, the little cloud tops, you can actually see them moving from south to north. And again, that's just that southeasterly wind, again, just pulling in that fetch of maritime moisture, right? So you can literally visually see what's happening. Now, okay, let's go and see. We've got something else going on. That's at the lower levels, but take a look at this straight high-level cloud cover just off to the west and see how that's moving from southwest to northeast, and it appears as though it's moving at a fairly high clip. See how fast that's moving? That's our storm system beginning to approach from the west, and that's the jet stream beginning around it. And again, at the higher level, cirrus cloud cover, streaked high-level cloud cover, it's well above the surface, obviously. And again, you're starting to see that fast flow as the jet stream does begin to energize coming in for tomorrow. By the way, where you're seeing that jet moving right there with the cirrus cloud cover, later today, I'm going to show you this coming up in our Texas Panhandle, parts of Oklahoma, parts of Kansas. This evening and tonight, there is a severe risk, but it has to do with literally that jet streak you're seeing right there in real time. So anyone who says clouds don't tell the story and that's a thing of the past, we literally, I've almost told you the whole weather story just by looking at what's going on with the clouds here locally. I mean, literally, that's literally almost telling you everything that's going on. But there is a little bit more, right? So let's keep going. Okay, from there, let me do this. Let's go and look at the overall upper air chart, right? So this is the 500 millibar chart, and this is looking at about 18,000 feet, right? So this is actually still below where we're talking about that cirrus cloud cover. We're still just a little bit below that. But what we're looking at here, I say this every day, it sounds a little basic, but we're looking for dips and we're looking for ridges. But that's truly what we're looking for. So a dip would be an active storm trough, typically cooler weather and active weather, right? Typically, or a ridge, meaning calmer weather and typically a little bit milder weather. So in this situation, this gives us our overall setup. So we've got actually truly one of each, right? So for us here in North Texas, this is what we're concerned about. You can see it very evidently, right? That's our big storm trough. It came in from the Pacific Northwest. It's now amplifying out across parts of the Intermountain West and the Great Basin, and that is what's literally going to be moving across North Texas as we go through tomorrow. Again, you can see kind of the brighter colors on the bottom side of it. That is also the jet stream rounding it, and again, like I mentioned, that jet stream flow will be increasing for tomorrow as well. You can also see a bit of a ridging pattern down across parts of the Deep South, meaning weather's quiet down there, and again, they're enjoying temperatures that are about where they should be or just a little warmer than average down there. Okay, so we've got two different things we're watching because of that ridge down there to the southeast. By the way, that's one of the reasons why as that trough comes out, it's going to bounce up and over it. And by the way, once it's done with us on Saturday, it's going to hightail it off to the northeast up towards the Great Lakes region. But again, the main reason why we have that ridging pattern down to the south, right? It's like a little speed bump and sending that up to the north, okay? One other perspective on that, because this is just so important, this is the water vapor imagery. And again, it's essentially telling us a very similar story, right? You can see here's that streaked high level cloud cover I was talking about. You can even see the water vapor associated with it. But again, that's the rising motion coming in. Even though the main storm is still back out to the west, we've got a little lobe of rising motion. Again, our Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, Kansas, that'll give them some active weather later today. But again, where you're seeing the red L back here to the west, that's the main piece of this storm. And again, that's what's going to be coming out for us. Real deal tomorrow, okay? Let me also go ahead and do this. Like I said, I'm trying to hammer this out a little bit faster today because I really just want to get in and key into the severe weather part. That's what everyone's truly interested in. Okay, so the convective outlook, here we go. This is number one for today, right? If you're obviously watching us from here in North Texas, looking off to the northwest there, you do see there is a risk of severe weather, again, in our Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, and Kansas. You know, a lot of times when you see that, you think, okay, storms will form out there, and then it'll eventually move into North Texas, so that's where our weather's coming from. That is not the case today, right? That's totally misleading. Any activity that forms out there is going to lift off to the northeast. So for us here in North Texas, even though that's literally in the neighborhood and maybe just a few counties away from our far western counties, again, it's not anything we're going to be concerned about. Now, there is a bit of a tornado zone out there today. A tornado warning can't be ruled out. It's going to mainly be a wind threat and a hail threat. Those are your wind and hail probabilities. So anything that forms, primarily it would be a severe thunderstorm warning, again, for $quarter to $half size hail. And again, winds up to 60 miles per hour. The 2% tornado zone, typically, it's one of those deals where a tornado warning can't be ruled out, but again, it's not very likely. Okay, so that's today. Now, the convective outlook for tomorrow, it's a different story, okay? Us here in North Texas, we're highlighted in that one. And we have a slight to an enhanced risk. The enhanced risk does include parts of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and all locations off to the east. So this will be a 3 out of 5, level 3 out of 5. And the way this works, because it is a little misleading in some ways, right? When you see a marginal, a slight, or an enhanced, typically you think, well, that's the level of severe. If you're in a marginal risk, that means it's very minimal severe weather. It's actually not how it works. I'm just not a big fan of these levels. I never have been. The way it works, it's the number of warnings, right? So in a marginal risk, the Storm Prediction Center is saying, hey, there might be an isolated severe storm, maybe a warning or two. So it's a marginal risk. A slight risk means there may be a few additional warnings, but it's still pretty minimal, right? The coverage may still be good of active weather, but we're only anticipating a few warnings. An enhanced risk means, well, there may be a few warnings, or in this situation, we may have a line of storms moving through, and maybe that whole line could be severe with warnings, so there's more of an enhanced risk of severe weather. You see what I mean? And then obviously you stair step up to the moderate, and then obviously the upper and high risk. So it's not necessarily that it means the weather could be even more severe tomorrow, for lack of a better term, but it just means there could be more warnings. But actually in this case, it could be a little more severe, because the opportunity tomorrow, and again, we like to always tread on this lightly, because I know there's a lot of people here in North Texas that, you just have severe weather anxiety. You've lived here maybe for a while, you've been through some events, and it just gets everyone's blood pressure up, right? But I mean, in weather, you have to deal with the facts, right? We can't tell you nothing's going to happen, and then you expect nothing is going to happen. If there's something that could happen, we got to tell you about it. It's just part of the deal, right? Part of living in North Texas as well. So unfortunately tomorrow we do have a tornado zone, right? And it is a 10% hatched area from the Storm Prediction Center. Again, it's not a 15% probability, which would begin to get to the upper end, right, of what we would typically see, but it's a 10%. It's a fairly decent area, meaning there is an elevated opportunity of a tornado warning, or a few tornado warnings. And it's one of two things, because tomorrow we're going to have two lines of storms. In fact, the first line may only be a broken line, and it appears as though with the newest data I'm going to show you, we may have some embedded supercells. So we're going to have to be concerned about a couple tornado warnings in there, number one, and then we'll have a true line of storms along an actual cold front moving through later in the day, and we could have some brief spin-ups. So when we've kind of throughout the week been talking about, hey, there's an opportunity of some brief spin-up tornadoes, it could be a tornado, a couple tornado warnings are possible, but it's really not typically going to be that big of a deal. That's why you have to wait for the high-res data, because as the high-res data began to come in earlier this morning, what did it begin to pinpoint? It wasn't just one line of storms coming through. We have two lines, and again, one's a broken line with maybe intermittent supercells, and then we have the actual line, right? So when we've been looking at a global model, because we're not within range of high-res data as we've gone through the week, we're just thinking, hey, it may just be a line of storms. And that's why the devil's always in the details, and you can talk about severe weather all week. You can do it all week, but it never matters, and I'd say this all the time, especially through spring, just know there could be severe weather, but anyone who's trying to give you a ton of details, they don't know what they're talking about until you get to the 48-hour window, until you get to the high-res data, because today and tomorrow is a perfect example. Again, we're not even talking about one line of storms, we're talking about two. And that's a big deal, and it makes a big difference. And now the tornado probabilities have been adjusted dramatically overnight and throughout the day, only for the fact now we have the potential for this additional broken line of storms initially starting at like 2 p.m. And again, we could have some embedded supercells. So I'm not saying all this to hype it up and think, this is not an end of the world deal. Still, even for North Texas, this is not truly one of our upper end days that we could have in the spring, but we haven't had a lot of severe weather this year. There's a lot of new folks who live in North Texas who haven't really gone through a lot of severe weather here, and the minimal severe weather this year we've had, they think, this is really not a big deal, but tomorrow could be just a little bit different. It really could if everything plays out the way the data is showing right now, because we could have a few tornado warnings. And again, the Storm Prediction Center, you see the area black, and let me even see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Let me use this zoom. And again, I don't want to go on and on and on about this, but I really just want to drive home this point that it really takes the high-res data. So you're seeing kind of the black area hatched 10% that the Storm Prediction Center is going out of their way to really notate that, okay? Outside of that, wind threat, 30%. We know with the line of storms, you always have that wind threat, right? So that's one of the things we'll be watching. And there may be some hail threat. The hail threat looked minimal. The hail threat with the secondary line, probably very minimal, but any of this activity before the line, this broken line, we could have some hail up to $50, maybe even a little bit bigger, okay? So that's something we're going to have to refine for tomorrow. If we truly get a few little supercells embedded, we could even go up to golf ball size hail tomorrow. Okay, again, still devil in the details, but not all of it's hashed out quite yet. Okay, so that's a look at what the Storm Prediction Center is thinking for tomorrow. I'm going to show you our map. It's the exact same as the Storm Prediction Center, but just so you can visualize as well, and it'll be a closer inspection, okay? Let me do this quickly. Like I said, we normally don't pull up these maps. This is the one for today. we know about that right out to the northwest. This is ours for tomorrow. And again, I'm only showing ours. It is a carbon copy of the Storm Prediction Center, but as opposed to just showing you their webpage, let me truly go ahead and show you a zoomed in view. Again, anything in the pink is the enhanced. It does include all of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and locations off to the east. Okay, if you live there, you need to stay plugged into the weather tomorrow. Now, on the flip side of things, if you live out to the west, say you live out in Palo Pinto County, say you live out in Jack County, Young County, Erath County, you're going to be razor close to maybe not seeing anything. So even though you're technically in a risk of severe weather, everything may form on the 35 corridor to your east and race off to the east. You may get a few showers and you may not get much of anything else, okay? So we're tracking that carefully. But right now, the Metroplex off to the east, that's the greatest concern. There is that tornado probability elevated in that kind of pale pink you're seeing from Dallas County, Collin County, Rockwall, Kaufman County, and then again, locations off to the east. Again, all you can do is just say stay alert as we go through tomorrow. Okay, so back over here, I want to go to the model now. And again, I know we're skipping some of the things that we normally go through, but I truly just want to get over to what we're doing. And let me do this here. Let me do this here. And I'm sorry, I didn't actually even have this pulled up, our model page. And what we use weathermodels.com. I've had people ask me that. There's several great premium sites. We use Weather Models. Again, obviously there's Pivotal Weather, which is a free site that you can use. There's WeatherBell, which is a premium site. And then there's also AccuWeather Pro. I'm a fan of AccuWeather Pro. I used them for years, but I switched to this Weather Models because there's a couple things that I like from them. And one of the guys who used to work at WeatherBell, he went out on his own and started this. And like I said, I kind of like this. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this. This is going to be the upper air look. We're going to start with this as we typically do. And what we're watching, right? We're watching the storm trough again out here to our west, right? This is the area we're watching, right? It's this storm trough out here. And we're going to watch that as it comes on in. So this is where we are now. I'm going to roll you through time. There it is coming in from the west. You can see it amplifying. The vorticity is the colors there. The vorticity getting even stronger. And there it is. Like I said, it hits the road bump and then it goes well off to the northeast up into the Great Lakes region as we get into Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Quickly, I'm going to roll you just through the next 10 days. This is a global model. This is the European model. We go quiet early next week. Temperatures well above normal early next week. Could have some 80s. And then we have another big storm trough coming in. The rain chance with that one looks pretty minimal, but what that one's going to do, it's actually going to bring some cooler weather down into the Great Plains. Let me show you that quickly as well, and then we'll just key in on the severe weather aspect, right? So for Saturday, behind our next system, the one that's coming through tomorrow, Friday, you can see the cold front with that. It's of Pacific origin. Saturday, we turn a little cooler, right? Highs in the 60s, like 69 here in the Metroplex, 69, 70. Again, really just a fine fall afternoon. So after the active weather on Friday, the weekend truly looks good, or a little cool on Saturday, right? Then we quickly rebound the temperatures early next week. We go above normal. You see all that colder air, that Canadian air brewing to the north. That next trough comes down. It catches. See how it catches some of that Canadian air, and then it begins to bring it on down, right? You see that little finger coming down. The Canadian air doesn't make it here into North Texas, but it's a decent front that comes on in, and by the end of next week, we may be talking about high temperatures in the mid to even some lower 60s around the area. So we will have a nice cool down. It won't be a chill down, but it will be a cool down. But that next system does not appear to have a very decent rain chance with it whatsoever. So in the extended, that's what we're kind of watching. We've got a big warm up, and then we've got a fairly decent cool down. But again, no freezing temperatures, nothing like that for the Metroplex still showing up at this point. Okay, let me go ahead and switch over to the high res data. This is what we really want to get to. And if this one seems like it's a little choppy or all over the place, like I said, I apologize. I'm just trying to cover most of what we do here, but I'm really trying to just get to the severe weather stuff because folks that are watching, this is what they want to know. Okay, so this is the high-res data. This came within range earlier today, but now we're on the third run of this, right? So every 6 hours, we're now getting these extended runs of the high-resolution rapid refresh, the HRR or the HRRR model. And so we're starting with basically right now, this run came in about an hour ago. And so this is the very latest data here. Again, you see today, tonight, everything quiet. Here we go as we get into tomorrow morning, a few showers around, not really a big deal. Okay, so here we go. We're getting deeper into the day. It's right here. It's between 2 and 3 p.m. You see that broken line. Can you see that? The green, but you see the little areas of red, the little cores coming up. 2 to 3 p.m. scattered activity develops in the Metroplex. You can see that activity. It's a broken line, but they're segmented. These are cells that are segmented, and there's going to be an opportunity. You see that how it really begins to energize just on the eastern sides of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Could be embedded supercells, and again, we could have a few tornado warnings embedded within that. Okay, so you see that again. It's a line, but it's still embedded cells. Okay, so I'm still going forward in time. That looks pretty severe. And then behind it, immediately behind it, this is by about 4 or 5 p.m., you see a little skinny line. That'll be the front coming through. A secondary line develops right over the Metroplex as well. And that one could also be severe, but mainly with the wind threat, right? But what truly, I think the real piece of this that we need to watch, it is going to be that broken line. It's going to be the initial line, right? The secondary line, I mean, the air mass is already going to be worked over to a certain extent. I still think we'll have some embedded severe weather in the secondary line, but it's that primary line that develops over the Metroplex and then really energizes off to the east, okay? Now, again, if you're out in Palo Pinto County, you're out in Erath County, Young County, Jack County, I mean, you're seeing it right there. You may not get anything, right? I mean, we've still got rain probabilities, in fact, fairly high rain probabilities, because if this starts a little bit further to the west tomorrow, you could have severe weather. But for you folks out there, it's feast or famine. Either you get rain, or other than maybe a couple very light showers, you may not get anything at all. But right now, it appears as though from the 35 corridor off to the east, that's what's going to be under the gun for tomorrow. And that's truly the way the data has been for about the last 48 hours. So it's been pretty consistent showing that. One other thing I want to look at here, and this is just the tornado potential, right? And we'll just take a quick peek at this. And again, we're not showing this just to you know, hype this up at all, but let's just take a peek at what the data is. That's what we're doing here. We're just looking at data. And we'll take this. There's 2 to 3. And again, not that we have crazy values here, crazy parameters, but we have enough that, again, a tornado warning or two, simply put, just can't be ruled out. And we'll look at the supercell composite here too, just quickly. And sorry, this is so small. What I'm seeing on my screen is almost as small as what you're seeing on yours, so I promise I'm not blind, but I literally can't see it. I really almost have to get right down to it. So there's a supercell composite, and you can see that activity that develops. It's going to be embedded supercells, right? In fact, it may just be a broken line of supercells. So that initial line is what we have to watch tomorrow. And then again, the secondary line, right, could still be some embedded severe weather with it as well. But I mean, you know, tomorrow it looks like a pretty decent severe weather day. I mean, there's really no way to sugarcoat it. Again, we haven't had a lot of severe weather this year. We've been in a drought. And again, if you're new to North Texas, this is nothing unusual. This, in fact, is typical. We have a secondary severe weather season in the fall. This is normal, right? Well, we've had all year, or even in May, which is really the peak of our severe weather season. Remember, we went dry. You know, from May, I think it was essentially from May 2nd on, we didn't have any rain whatsoever. That is extremely unusual for us. You know, from May 2nd on through a good part of the summer, right? It's obviously rained since then. But this is a little more normal, okay? So this is nothing unusual, but it's something we're really going to have to be plugged into. So again, if you're new here, or we just haven't had severe weather, you know, that often in the last year, and you've just kind of blown it off and written it off, tomorrow don't. Stay plugged into the weather from the 35 corridor off to the east. You know where you're going to be as we go through the day, and keep in mind, you know, this is an earlier afternoon deal as well, especially here in the Metroplex. You know, we'll have activity developing after 1 p.m. 2 p.m., 3 p.m. activity ongoing, and then we have that secondary line that does redevelop. Again, I think the secondary line will be a little more, you know, it won't be as quite enhanced as the first line, right? But it could still be severe. But where I'm going with all of this, you know where you're going to be, you know where you work, if you're going to be out running errands, you know where the kiddos are going to be during that time frame. Just make sure you have a severe weather safety plan and everyone knows what they're going to be doing. Again, not to blow this up into anything crazy, but you know, it's just at that level. I mean, tomorrow's going to be a severe weather day. Of course, we're going to be here live with you on the channel. Our storm trackers will be out. We'll be doing live severe weather coverage, all that kind of fun stuff. And we'll just see again tomorrow morning as all the newest data comes in overnight. We'll refine the forecast. And again, on the channel, we'll have a look at it. We may or may not do one of these behind the scene things tomorrow. We may just simply put not have time as the activity begins kind of earlier in the day. The one thing I do want to show though, if you haven't downloaded our free mobile app, be sure to do that. Again, you can watch our channel on there, number one, but also, of course, we give you all the severe weather alerts, live radars on there, the severe weather outlook maps, and again, all that kind of fun stuff as well. So again, if you haven't downloaded it, be sure to do it today. And of course, as always, you can add our channel to your Roku, Apple, Amazon Fire TV. It's a live 24/7 weather channel on there. So that's where we are, folks. Again, thanks for joining us here on the weather model discussion. Like I know it was a little segmented today, but like I said, this was the important stuff that we needed to get to. And again, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay. Otherwise, stay weather alert as we go through tomorrow afternoon.